Hey, by we, I mean Pat and I took the political compass sort of test, I guess we would call it,
Yeah.
politicalcompass.org. This is not a perfect test of one's political alignment, but it is interesting. And it puts you on a matrix sort of from left to right and from authoritarian to libertarian. And I actually took this test on the show in 2012. So in a second, we'll compare whether my politics have changed over the last 5 years. Let's first take a look at a few things, starting with the 2016 primaries, okay? As you can see, in the primaries, you had the Republican candidates basically fully on the right-wing authoritarian side. You had Hillary Clinton still in the right-wing authoritarian quadrant. And then you had Bernie Sanders sort of on the left, right between authoritarian and libertarian. In the general election, you then saw a combination of Donald Trump, fully authoritarian and quite right, according to the political compass test. Hillary Clinton, less authoritarian than Donald Trump, but still relatively conservative politically. You had Gary Johnson, who was also on the right politically, but much more libertarian than authoritarian. And then you had Jill Stein over on the left libertarian quadrant of the graph. Historical figures that we can show you and how they would have placed on this graph. We're showing Joseph Stalin would have been a left authoritarian. Hitler would have been extremely authoritarian, more right than left. Margaret Thatcher, less authoritarian than Hitler, but more right. And then we have, I'm guessing is that Milton Friedman, presumably,
Yes.
as a historical figure, who would have been very right, but more libertarian. And then Gandhi would have been a left libertarian. Okay, so how did I do? Let's start with that. First, what I want to show you is, this is my result when I took this in 2012. And as you can see, grainy old picture from the old David Pakman Show episodes before we were in high definition, you see that I was a left libertarian. And now let's compare to my new results. I have changed my politics slightly, and I've become slightly more left and slightly more libertarian over the last 5 years. Pat also took this test. Here's Pat's result. And as you can see, Pat, slightly more authoritarian than me, slightly more right than me. That is interesting. How about that? This isn't a perfect test, right? But it does assess some pretty important aspects of someone's overall worldview. And it is interesting that over 5 years, I mean, these are slight differences, but basically my politics have not changed over the 5 years.
Right, and there's also 4 options there. There's agree, strongly disagree, and disagree.
Right.
So we could agree or disagree on a lot of the same things there, but depending on how strongly we do so, that
Yes,
could
indeed.
kind of skew the results a little bit.
There's a Reddit thread with lots of our viewers taking the politicalcompass.org test and then posting their results. And a lot of our viewers are pretty widely all over the map. I encourage people to check that out at davidpakman.com/Reddit. Take it yourself and also post it. It's pretty interesting to see the range of views in our audience.
Yeah, I'd love to do another one too, because I mean, there's some questions here that you don't really associate too much with politics. Like, for example, when you're upset about something, is it best to pay attention to that or to get your mind off it and think of different things? Is that really political?
It's not obviously political in terms of social or economic issues per se, but that question, I agree, can tell us a lot about the way we approach issues that are related to politics and culture and society. So I understand the inclusion of questions like that.
Right. I mean, the definition of political science is as vague as the study of human decisions. So
yes,
that's an umbrella term right there.
Politicalcompass.org. Take it. So I guess the big news is I am not an authoritarian leftist. I am a libertarian leftist, or certainly much more libertarian than authoritarian.